Aussie mixed and fixed action is back for the GT series. We travel to the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, and we're just in time for the race this afternoon. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth, Daniel Leet alongside me, where we are your commentary team for the season with Scott Newton behind the scenes in production. And Scott, not Scott, Daniel, sorry. We're in a bit of strife here. We've just managed to get all ready for the race. We're not using the first chicane at Monza this afternoon. And for Craig Edwards on pole, that is going to be a nice little challenge for him and the rest of the field behind.
Yeah, good evening, Jonathan. All the viewers out there tuning in, great to have you on board again tonight. Round two, we saw a fantastic race last week out, and as you say, not having the first chicane here, going to be really spicing up the action with the guys barreling down into Curva Grande for the start of this
week. Curva Grande is going to be a tough one. It's going to be high speeds, of course, at the same time. But we are going to be ready to go soon enough here. I think it's a good time to look at our grid this afternoon, Daniel. And of course, our drivers of on pole. Lattimore joins him on the front row. 2 Race on Oz cars on the second row. But then you have 3 Ferraris in 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now remember, the Ferraris were very dominant, weren't they, Daniel? At Road America, but now at Monza, it could be a different story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Ferrari were very strong out there. The first Ferrari on the grid tonight, Dominic Ferris, last week's round winner as well. So he's got himself in a pretty good position, starting only 5th tonight. But as you say, I think this could be a pretty interesting circuit for all these cars. I think the Ford's going to do exceptionally well here, being how compact and sleek that the car is in the air.
Most definitely. We're just having a look to see where these drivers are out in the field for the moment. Finally, Daniel, I have to ask, Ferraris, who won at Road America, led the championship, only starts from 4th, and he's got some work to do for him as they come out of the final corner.
Yeah, it's a little bit of work for him. Obviously not going to have the advantage that he got last week, but certainly if anyone can get through the field and up to the front, he's got the capacity to do that. And we saw how dominant he was out there last week as well. So look to him to get a good start here as we're just about ready to go. The guys working their way through that final corner now, and we're going to get the safety car off
as well for any issues with pictures, but the race is green, and we'll bring you radio coverage for the moment, and it's a blistering getaway by Edwards in pole position. Now, this is the weird part about Monza, is that they're going to scream past the first chicane. It looks like Wallace and Lattimore in a nice little dice here for the second position, and I've never seen such high speeds in the GTs heading into the Curva Grande, and you can hear them all lift.
Yeah, it looks like everyone's doing a really good job to get through. A couple of Porsches running very wide there. We've got Harley Haber, new to the series, running a little bit wide and getting the dirt there, but everyone breaking down heavily down into the Della Rosa. A little bit of contact there from a couple of cars as well.
Yeah, there was a little bit of contact for Justin Wallace, who started from 3rd, and his Porsche looks done and dusted. The rear end is completely damaged in there, Daniel. And that's the left rear. He's continuing away for the moment, but goodness me, that's a poor start for him. He just had a bit of a conundrum at the second chicane.
Yeah, that's not ideal for him. He will get a reset, obviously, with this being a double header tonight. 220 minutes, he can get back in underway, but it's not going to be ideal for what he wants now. And we'll see how he can go with this field so tightly compressed as they work their way down up through the Ascari chicane and almost get to completion of lap 1 here.
Yeah, it's been a thrilling first lap for the moment, but look at that as well, Daniel. 2 Fords up in the first 2 positions, and Edwards and Lattimore starting on the front row. They remain there for the moment, but I have to say, Lattimore now is about 3/10 behind Edwards. This is going to be a mammoth draft heading over to the Curva Grande.
Yeah, fantastic draft there. He should be able to work. We've got one of the cars, I think that's one of the Mark 1 cars, Tim Phoeben, coming down the lane for a stop. So he might have a little bit of damage as well. Not sure what happened there. We'll keep. But as you say, the guy's getting a fantastic draft here now.
So it's looking close. And as we said, apologies for the lack of pictures. If you're seeing, we're just having some issues sorting out here behind the scenes at Apex Racing TV. So we'll bring you radio coverage for the moment. This brings me back to ABC Grandstand days, Daniel.
Yeah, very similar to that. And if you don't have the picture, the audio is the next best thing. We'll do our very best to keep an eye on everyone going through, but certainly we'll hope to have those pictures up at the moment.
At the top 10 for the moment, I look at Lee Vandenberg, and he's up from 16th to 9th, so a brilliant getaway from him. He's your best mover and shaker in the top 10. A couple of drivers losing a few positions, the likes of Reese Keane. And where is Justin Wallace now? He's down 3 positions from 3rd to 6th, like we said, with a damaged Porsche for the moment. He's actually in 8th. So since he crossed the line, he's already lost 2 positions this lap. It hasn't been updated in the past 45 seconds, Daniel, but his race is just going to get ever worse.
Yeah, it's not ideal there, but as you said, he does get that reset. Just keep an eye and watch him. I'm keeping an eye here on Harley Haber as well, coming around. He's found himself in 10th at the moment, up 4 spots from where he started, and just on the back of his teammate, Lee Vandenberg, for the Mark 1 team there. So he's having a really good strong showing tonight, and great to see a new driver in the field already up.
Down into the first corner, we're looking at a nice little scrap here between Scott Stevens and Kenneth Latta. I'm still trying to get used to this, Daniel, where they just scream through the first chicane. But it looks all good for the moment, and that's Scott Stevens now. Kenneth Latta ahead of Scott Stevens as they break now for the Della Roggia here at Monza, the second chicane. Not much elevation change at Monza, only about 15 meters. The highest point is here, Lesmo 1, and you hardly really notice it, Daniel. What you do notice around this circuit is the camber, especially through Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. That can really unsettle the rear end. Yeah,
absolutely. And with these cars having a little bit extra downforce, it obviously does negate a little bit of that issue there, but you certainly you do enjoy getting the car up on that banking and sliding it through the corners. You do have to watch a bit of the runoff exit as we see a little bit of a move in the background. It looks like Latta trying to get racing on the back of Scotty Stephen, and good to have Scott back in the series having a run tonight. And almost going to be a move here as they set up, their run down to the final corner.
Close. Well, if you're in Lattimore's position here for our super sprint format, it's for yourself. You want to work together with Edwards, don't you, in these opening laps? And I think at Monza, what you'll see, Daniel, is they'll probably save the move to the final lap. I don't think you can get it done out of the Parabolica unless it's a bump and run. So it'd have to be to begin the final lap here as they head through the Curva Grande. The move here could possibly seal the win on the final lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're able to get in that draft and get all the benefit you can out of it, certainly going to set you up in fine form to finish off the race. I think a lot of guys will be looking to not only save a little bit of fuel and being it's a sprint race, they're not really worried about saving the fuel here. They're going to want to run as hard as possible. But if you can stay behind someone and get that draft, it's certainly going to set you up for a really good finish.
New to the series, welcome along. And we have 3 super sprint races. I think I'm getting mixed up with last season, aren't I, Daniel? They were called Super Sprint last season. So 3 sprint races, no mandatory stop required. So it's the only race format that doesn't require a compulsory pit stop. And the race 1 grid that we're currently in is determined by qualifying. But the interesting fact is that race 2 will reverse the grid lead lap finishes. At the moment, I see 51 lead lap finishers at the moment who haven't been lapped, which can make that second race ever so insane.
Oh, it certainly will, and it's going to, for the quick guys out there, as we're seeing a few of them already start to stretch their legs a little bit here with Craig Edwards out front. Over Lattimore, that could potentially drop these guys well down into the field later on, so it's something they're going to want to keep an eye on, and if they are able to get some passing done and start clearing some of the back markers there, that's only going to be a better thing for them.
Finally, we have pictures. Welcome along, everybody. And on the 6th, what was it, on the 6th day, God said there was light. I don't even know. I'm not going to open up religion as a conversation for a good reason. But Edwards ahead of Lattimore here into the second chicane. This is your lead battle. The 2 Fords ahead of 4 Ferraris of Ferraris, Veld, Clements and Latta. Clements and Latta here alongside each other. And this is a nice scrap. Let's have a look at this.
Yeah, and just behind that, you got Scott Stevens in the Fusion Sim Racing BMW there. He could be a big beneficiary here if these two do come together. Scott trying to go down into Lesmo too. Actually, almost going to get that move done, but clip a corner and hits the wall.
And Stevens into the wall, unfortunately. There's going to be a lot of damage for the Fusion Sim Racing driver. Pack here as they rise down through under that banked oval. It's not in use anymore, obviously, in racing. You can simulate it, though, in iRacing. I hope next season we'll on a schedule. Have the full 10 kilometers of Monza.
That'd certainly bring a lot of excitement in watching these cars bounce around over the chicane, through the corners there. Will be great to see, but we'll... for what we get now, we enjoy this one, but certainly something that they could use to spice up the series. Not that it needs spicing up by any means, but certainly that would add a little bit.
This is Reese Keane now, still in the 11th position since the first lap. He tucks back into the slipstream. Now, where would you position your car here, Daniel? There seems to be no room for him.
I think you almost got to try and sit in the middle. We've got a slow forward coming back out of the... And actually, he got the best run there in the middle, able to get a move done.
That forward was Daniel Misdale. What happened to Daniel Misdale? A slowdown at the Parabolica or something?
Yeah, not too sure. We'll keep an eye on that, but great move there from Davis to hold that off and get ahead. So he's got himself a little bit of traffic behind him that he's going to want to stay ahead of there, and we'll see how he goes. He's got Justin Wallace over the back of him here, and we know how quick Wallace has been, as we see who's that Dave Clement just up ahead. Potentially a little slowdown for Clement as well, so that's what drops him back into clutches.
This is Hayden Bell. Race on Oz driver right behind Ferraris. Ferraris is going to have to take there. Unfortunately, we know he's going to receive an incident point, and that means no bonus points for Dominic Ferraris this round.
No, it was good avoidance, though. He might lose the point, but he still keeps into this battle and didn't see any issues there, and obviously didn't take Veld out. So I'm not saying that the race students will need to worry about later on, and good awareness and spatial awareness from Ferris there. But he did drop a little way off that, but hopefully now with the 8 of the straight, he should be able to close.
10 minutes through this first of two races this afternoon. They'll both be 20 minutes in length. Obviously, we'll reverse the grid for all the lead lap finishes of this race 1 of 2. This is Pat Gallo for Mach 1 Esports. We always see Pat Gallo in the midst of the pack in that 777 car. Lucky sevens, you could say, hopefully for him.
Well, you'd like to think so. He's got a strong move here on Galenti just ahead of him there, and he's bringing Adam Gardner along for the ride in the BMW as well. So these guys are going to go 3 wide here, potentially down into 10.
I mean, the Ferraris look quick. So where's the Ferrari getting the advantage now? On the straights?
Yeah, I think the Ferrari looks to be a little stronger in the straight. I actually see it pulling away from the BMW there of Gardner, which we don't traditionally see. The BMW we know is a very, very strong car. You see Cell having a little bit of connection issue there, but the Ferrari seems to be that touch slippery.
Yeah, it definitely does. So Pat Gallo there sailing past what was Adam Gardner in the Mach 1 Esports car. Now, of course, the GT for AMF is fully GTE, so no more GT3s like we had last season. But nevertheless, though, we watch for Red Team Racing. 1 car off into the barrier there. That's Wayne Hewitt for Angry Pepper Racing, and he's going to be an Angry Pepper in the cockpit for sure after that.
Absolutely, he won't be pleased with himself after that little mistake, and it's very easy to do, to drop a tyre off the second Lesmo there and get it looped around. So it doesn't look like a huge amount of damage, so he should be able to get back underway. As we see him drop behind is that Michael Kirkland just ahead. I think that's one of the Mach 1 Esports cars as well, so he should be able to come back up, but currently finds himself down in the 23rd position.
Down the order. Now, we have a couple of drivers in the pit lane, I think. Is that Harley Haber and Aaron Duricchio, one of the privateers? So I want to see if they're actually... Hey, so I don't know if they're out of the race or in the pit lanes. This is something to judge here, Daniel, but we know that they're at least in their box. Pit stop in this race. Surely it's not worth repairing that damage.
No, you wouldn't think so unless it's something severe. You'd want to stay out and retain as much track position as you can. You see Hewitt getting a move done and jumps himself up to the 22nd spot now. But yeah, if you've got any form of damage, you want to stay out as long as possible, retain that track position, and just hope that you can set yourself up for the second split.
Have a look at that. One of the BMWs there right behind. And throwing it up the inside into the second chicane, the Della Roggia, and the Fusion Sim Racing driver, after an early spin, finds his way with a good move. Oh, collisions up ahead of these two, and this is around the 35th position. Looks like Aaron Doriccio now, who definitely was in the pit lane, now back out there. Contact in the Lesmo, so getting a bit argy-bargy. And your leader swapping positions too.
And I think that's something that was always going to happen, especially with the amount of field, the drivers in the field and the talent that we've got here tonight. And everyone's going to be fighting over sheep stations, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. But this battle up front with Edwards and Lattimore still going on, and only a tenth of a second separating these two. They've been nearly inseparable so far this whole race.
For the moment, we see Edwards and Lattimore currently separated by only a few tenths here. They've been slicing and dicing for many, many laps in the Fords. Fusion Sim Racing versus Race on Oz. And who do you tip for victory? You almost can't pick between the two, but I think if you put a bet on either of these two to finish on the podium, you get that correct.
Yeah, I think both of these guys will certainly want to bring it down, but they'll keep the racing as tight as possible. Actually, it might be something we could put out to the viewers to put their pick on who we might see potentially take this one. But I think, if anything, the way they're staying at the moment, it's going to put Lattimore in the prime position here, especially with the draft coming through the Parabolica there. If he can get up tight, he should get a nice run for.
Yeah, it's going to be close. These are the two on screen for the moment right now from our wonderful aerial shot. So the trick is, at the Parabolica, Daniel, is to keep at least half your car on the tarmac. The other half can remain. Should be able to get away with a clean lap time, but any more, iRacing will penalize you and give you a 1x.
Yeah, and it will slow you down a little bit too, running a bit wide. We see some of the guys getting into some too wide action here, and the drafts, everyone's angling for that draft to set up for the first run through Keva Grande and down into the Del Roggia chicane there, as we see one of the BMWs coming alongside the Mark 1 car there. We might get a move done here, but there's battles all over the field. It's hard to know where to look now.
Yeah, definitely. Just having a look from our aerial shots. Everson and co will be, but for the moment, though, I'm looking at the lead, still between Edwards and Lattimore, of course. Heard as well, Daniel, that the top 10 for race 2 will be reversed. So not field. So I'm not sure if that was changed only for this round. Because as far as I know, I did read through the rule book that it was all your lead lap finishes, but we know that drivers, they must complete, well, the rules say, and it's a very relaxed rule, that they must complete 75% of the lead lap distance to be eligible for race 2. But if there's anything that's really caused a very unlucky DNF, I'm sure the stewards will be a bit more lenient to allow them to race.
Yeah, and obviously that'll be something that we'll see with race control taking on, and hopefully, even if it is the top 10 going around, which looks like it is going to be tonight, that's going to make still for some extremely fantastic racing. We see, looks like Ferris is closed up on the back of Veld as well, so the battle for third and fourth will be heating up again momentarily here. And then just behind that, you got Van Bergen and Ladder going at it as well. So some of the other cars starting to come back up through the field, and Ferraris, while not quite as strong as the Fords, certainly getting themselves into some fantastic little battles.
Good camera shot from the bridge here as we watch Lattimore and Edwards separated by a car bumper or two. And you don't want to cut that second anti-cut strip too much there, because the car can get pretty unsettled, but any more than two wheels, you'll receive a slowdown. You'll see Vandenberg here climbing through the field yet again.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's not going to get that one done. That was a bit of an unforced error there, getting into the back of Veld there, so he spun him around, and that'll certainly get the attention of race control later on. We'll see whether he's able to slow down enough to redress that, but that's not ideal for Ladder. Finds himself down at 15th now, but let's keep an eye here on Vandenberg. Got himself a lot of traffic behind him now.
He's made some good progress in this race, has Lee Vandenberg. So he's looking good here as the race progresses. Only a couple minutes remaining. Slight peak there from Reese Keane behind in the DPR Racing BMW. But how about Vandenberg up the inside here of Dave Clements? And he's pulled off that move nice and cleanly, but Clements will have the switchback and the run coming out of the corner possibly. No, excuse me, that's Reese Keane behind, I mean. And Reese Keane now also looking to make his way past Dave Clements.
Yeah, I think if Keane can stay where he is, he's going to get a great run around the outside as we watch all the guys breaking down into the Parabolica here. We'll give up a little bit of track position on the initial phase, but should be able to come back over. That also will make Justin Wallace fancy a move as well. If he can get into a bit of 2x2 drafting, might actually see him come past.
From the rear end of Vandenberg, and look at the advantage he's gained over the rest of the pack behind. Each other are Keane and Clements. They're 2x2, and look at the damaged race on Oscar of Justin Wallace there on the main stretch. Almost trying to bump draft each other. Whoa, they're going to be hair raising. I thought Wallace and Misdale made some contact, but it was just Wallace forming up. And now this race is becoming a mad scrambling event here on lap 12. And this should be, if I'm not mistaken, it could potentially be the final lap, but otherwise it most likely will be the white flag lap.
Yeah, I think looking at where our race leaders are as they work their way down through the Ascari, we should get time for one more lap here. So these guys have got another lap to go and a lot of battling still to go. This is currently, where are we? Positions 8 down through at least position 13 at the moment. So a lot of cars in very close proximity here, and anyone can really get a leg up if they get the...
Paul Jones down the order for CPR AMF. We've been watching Pat Gallo for most of the event. Timothy Phoebin's down the order in the BMW. Remember, he was in the top 10 at Road America, so sometimes adapting to a track like Monza can really take its toll on you, but I wouldn't think Road America and Monza are too entirely different. I mean, Monza's got some slow chicanes, but I think Monza's a little easier.
Yeah, look, Monza's more of a point-and-shoot type race, but we did see Phoebin go down the pit lane very early on tonight, so
yes.
Little unfortunate error for him there, but he's back up on the back here of Paul Jones, and watch him go past in that BMW. He's got a lot of poke in a straight line, and actually going to get the draft off his teammate there with Pat Gallo ahead. So he's starting to come back up the field. I think he'll be just trying to get the laps in now, get an understanding of how this car's going to work, especially over the first 20 minutes. And with race 2 still to come, he's going to find himself in a really good position.
The leaders of Edwards and Lattimore, because here on the final lap, there they are, heading through the second Lesmo. The race is coming down to the wire. Important points on offer here. We ride on board with Lattimore. Has one last shot, maybe 2 last shots, one into Ascari here. Would you send it? He thinks better of it, but possibly into the Parabolica.
Yeah, I think realistically the Parabolica is probably your setup that you want, so if you can get a nice run here through the Ascaris. You see both drivers getting a little wide. I think Lattimore might have just overcooked that one a touch with the slide, but he still has one final shot if he can break it in late.
There's no chance. He's so far back. You never know, though, in motor racing. Edwards has one more corner to go, and he'll claim his first victory of the season. And there the headlights flicker on that Ford. He's earned this one, has Craig Edwards from pole. He takes victory for race 1 of 2 this afternoon as Lattimore joins him on the podium. It was a nice little tough fight between the two. Ferraris, our championship leader coming into this round, ends up rounding out the podium. And we're still racing here with Vandenberg. And, of course, Reese Keane along the finish line. Reese Keane up into 6th. What a race for him.
Yeah, that's a great drive from Keane. That was up a couple of spots from where he started, another 10 spots up as well, likewise for Lee as well. So those guys are working their way up through. It looks like Nick Sanfilippo coming around in the Porsche there, so good to see him coming through for Pulse Racing, and he's got another one of his team cars just behind him.
And Sal Galenti here still racing, of course. Very close between himself and Adam Gardner in that Mach 1 Esports car. Gardner there into the top 20 with that final pass of the day. Here's Andrew Malcolm coming home outside your top 30. trundles his way home in the BMW, doesn't he? It's been a tough race for Andrew Malcolm for Race on Oz. But nevertheless, though, drafting Daniel in that one. But I think I saw the most three-wide action on a non-oval I've seen in sim racing.
Yeah, look, I think not having the chicane for the first corner here really promotes that opportunity. And when you've got 50-odd cars trying to get around this circuit, it's what you expect to see. And with everything being so tight, I think all the guys did a fantastic job to avoid any major incidents.
So let's take a look at your final race results for race number 1 this afternoon. And we know that for race 2, the grid will be sorted by reversing your top 10. I think all the finishes have come about, Scott, Daniel? No, they have. Yeah, so we can look at your final race results. There they are on screen. So your top 10 now will be Daniel Misdale will start on pole for DPR Racing, as we're hearing. It would have been insane, wouldn't it, Daniel, if they reversed the entire lead lap finishes? You would have had Edwards starting down outside the top 50. But good win for Craig Edwards. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it certainly would have made for an exciting race too, and certainly probably some more incident to unfold.
Exactly. With Danny Davison rounding out the top 5. Good result for him in the elite racing car. But all Aussies, as you can see so far. It's the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series, so nothing else to spot there. Chris Whitaker was the first driver outside the top 10, and that's always a little bit demoralizing, isn't it, Daniel, when you know you are one position away from reverse pole?
Yeah, one position away. Obviously, he would have loved to have got up there, but getting a start in 11th, he made him way up a couple of spots off the start of that one. He's not going to be too demoralized overall, I don't think.
And we'll cycle through the rest of the field. You can see down the order, Martin Crisp there in 22nd. He was ahead of Paul Jones at the end of the day. Harley Haber started, up 31st. Cody Bird didn't have the best of races. We've seen better from Cody Bird, who ended up in the 33rd position. And then you can spot your favorite driver down the field. For any Benjamin Faulkner or Kenneth Latta fans, they'll be thinking, well, what happened? Be said for the Scott Gamble and Robert Crisdale fans, who ended up in a bit of trouble and were unfortunately a lap behind at the end of this one, in that JP Simshed's down the order as well. Andrea Cherisaro, seen better from Andrea. DNF for him, of course. And then, of course, Cotterill and Mulqueen on the opening lap came into some troubles. So what have we learnt from race 1 this afternoon, Daniel? We know that the slipstream can keep you in contention, but I've seen some three-wide action like I spoke about, but the leaders, again, had to save it to the final laps for that battle, and we know if you don't get it right going into the second chicane, it's pretty much almost day done.
Yeah, exactly. I think 3 wide's going to probably be the name of the game for race 2. The big thing probably realistically is how slippery those Fords are getting out underway. And we saw that with Edwards and Latta there getting out and basically gone from the field. They had a nice 3 to 4 second lead over third place. So the Fords seem to be very good. We'll have to get an idea of what they can do back in traffic tonight. So that'll be interesting when that top 10 reverses. But I think all in all, 3 wide action is probably going to be the go for the second race.
Yeah, most certainly. And that second race will also take place from Monza, so it'll be the same racetrack. Nothing, don't overthink it. It'll be all the same action, of course. Another 20 minutes of racing here for Season 9 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series on Apex Racing TV. Hope you enjoyed race 1. Once again, apologies for the technical issues with our pictures, but it's all sorted for the moment. Don't leave us. We'll bring you all the race 2 action in a few moments' time. Welcome back to race number 2 this evening for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series. We're back at Monza. This time, Daniel, overcast skies for the second race. It's given us a little bit of a rainy haze. It almost got me excited for rain in iRacing.
Yeah, look, who wouldn't love rain in iRacing? I think that's the number one thing that everyone's hanging out for at the moment. But certainly having the overcast conditions is going to make this one a little more interesting. Obviously gone from the bright sun we had in race 1 to the overcast now. But the big thing is the track temps have come down a fair bit as well, down to 33-degree track temp, which is only going to help these guys push a little bit harder.
Tell us about the challenges, or maybe the lack of challenges that a colder track would present, because we know in iRacing, the colder the track, the more grip that's available to the drivers. But with this in Season 4 for the moment, there's a lot more hotter track temps. So I think if you convert this to pre-update, this is actually quite... it could almost be like a 28 with this type of ambient temperature if you put it to Season 3 build.
Yeah, I guess you're probably right. I haven't done enough laps really to get a full understanding of how much difference there has been, obviously, with the swing in cars and everything, and the change with some tyre models and the likes has played a little bit of a role in that. But I think you're right in that if everyone obviously loves a cooler track, I have heard some words in other series that a lot of the iRacing stuff coming up has been very hot, so it makes it a more challenge. Obviously, the cars do tend to move around a lot, and that presents its own challenges and problems. But for the guys out there tonight, they're going to revel in this little bit cooler. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a little bit of a change in the overall track temp. In lap time. But what it will do with everyone being on a cooler track is it's going to bunch that field a lot tighter as well. So for the guys having to work their way through from the top 10 that's reversed, come back up through the field, that is going to give us a lot more exciting pack racing to see.
To it. Now, Monza itself, as we look at the track details, it is a 5.7 kilometer circuit. That's 3.6 miles, depending on your units of choice. It's a clockwise layout, as you can see. 11 turns only. 4 to the left, the other 7 to the right. Now, we'll challenge the drivers today for 20 minutes of racing action. As we said earlier, only about around 13 to 15 meters of elevation change from the lowest point at the Parabolica on the bottom right-hand side of the track map and side of the track map at Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, as it's known officially, the Curva de Lesmos. Now, there is no compulsory pit stop required in this second race. The top 10 finishers from race 1 will be reversed. This reminds me, this is very similar, Daniel, to the Porsche Esports Super Cup, like we see in the World Championship for iRacing.
Yeah, a little similar in that respect, but I think a lot of these guys are probably well aware of it and looking forward to that extra little bit of challenge. And it's the only time in this championship, especially with the 20-minute races, that we do get we're fortunate enough to see the reverse changes. So it adds that little extra spice. But I think everyone here, coming from what we saw last season with these races and obviously onto here, is certainly something they do enjoy.
So we're switching over to the race. Let's look at your grid. It's Daniel Misdale on pole position, who finished 10th in race 1. And as you can see, the order flip there. Our winner, Craig Edwards, will start from 10th. And what a top 10 field that is. How about Dominic Ferraris from the 8th position? Will he take victory from the 4th row? We'll cycle through the rest of your order here for this rolling start. And down the order, we see Andrew Mogridge rounding out the top 15. Adam Gardner will start from 19th there with a late pass on the final lap. Just behind Harley Haber on the 16th row of the grid, with Cody Bird in 33rd, ahead of Andrew Malcolm. Some other names down the order will cycle through past Michael Kirkham in 36th. Start from 46th, behind Scott Gamble ahead of him. Kenneth Latta alongside Scott Gamble here in the rolling start. But how many cars do we have out there as we cycle through? Wow, 51.
There's a massive size field out here tonight. I think we had 2 splits, over 80 drivers qualifying for both of these races. So huge participation, obviously. Numbers down maybe a touch from what we saw last week at Road America, but 80 drivers out here, still a fantastic result. I am looking forward to see how Daniel Misdale goes off the start here though tonight. We saw in race 1 the Ford was very strong in the hands of Craig Edwards and Steve Lattimore. Can it be equally as fast in the hands of Daniel Misdale now?
Seeing at the end of race 1 how hard it was to keep track of so many cars out there, but now the Ford, you're right. It's up to Daniel Misdale to scream off and begin proceedings for our final the evening here, the second of 2 sprint races this afternoon in our sprint format. Misdale in first, Porsche of Wallace, 2 Ferraris of Clements and Vandenberg, BMWs, Ferraris, Fords, Ferraris again, line astern like Noah's Ark, and we're ready to go here for the second of 2 races this evening. We go green from Monza as Misdale floors it.
Yeah, Misdale getting a fantastic jump off the start there. Dave Clement getting involved in it. He's up now into second place, and Justin Wallace actually got a little bit swamped there off the start, drops himself back to third, and potentially could lose a spot here to Lee Vandenberg.
The first chicane, of course, if you're joining us, we are not running the first chicane at Monza, which makes this start ever thrilling. What a brilliant sight here at Monza as our 50 GT cars in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series screen towards the first braking zone of the evening into the Della Roggia, and look at them all scramble away for position. Incredibly clean start with the field. A couple of drivers just bottlenecking there as the track narrows through the second chicane, but they'll rise to the highest point of the circuit into the Lesmos, and now we get a huge pile up at the exit of the Della Roggia.
Yeah, that's the big one. It looks like a couple of the Mark 1 cars involved in that. And I'm just trying to keep an eye on it. I think we've got Mitch Williams involved in it as well, so plenty of cars involved in that opening incident there, so something for race control to check out later on. Up front though, Daniel Misdale starting to extend a little bit of a lead over Dave Clement. 0.7 of a second at the moment as they work their way through the Ascari. And again, that Ford proving to be very, very strong tonight.
Misdale in prime position. That was a bizarre incident there on the run down to Lesmo 1. And Misdale now a half a second advantage, but look at the gaps on the left-hand side of the screen here. Daniel, everybody in your top 13 separated by less than half a second. Well, there we go. How about Lattimore and Whitaker just ruining that for me? Whitaker's now fallen to a second behind.
Yeah, but having said that, Whitaker's found himself up a spot up into that top 10. Obviously, bitterly disappointed not to have made it at the end of race 1 there. But as you say, everyone coming on very, very strong. Just to recap on a few of those cars involved in that first lap incident there, we had Adam Gardner, Tim Thieben, Pat Gallo, so 3 of the Mark 1 esports cars involved in that. Jeremy Franklin, Scotty Gamble, and Damon Mulqueen as well. So a lot of very talented drivers finding themselves wrapped up in that one.
Down to the second chicane. Hopefully no bizarre incidents this time around. Imagine if iRacing kept debris on the racetrack, Daniel. It'd be a garbage dump here at the Lesmo 1 as Ferraris makes his way past Vandenberg for the 6th position.
Yeah, it's, well, obviously that's going to come down later on with iRacing obviously working on their new destruction model. So we're likely to see little bits of stuff scattered on in upcoming seasons. But for the moment, the guys are fortunate enough to get that clear track and get back underway with it. And one guy who looks to have been a big loser as a result of that earlier issue was Craig Edwards. Drops himself down to 18th position. He's got himself Matty Morris for a bit of company in there as well. So Matt Morris also not having a race to remember as well, as we see a lot of damage on the BMW as Scotty Stevens just ahead there. And he's actually missing the whole front end of that car at the moment.
Scott Stevens now 2 races with a damaged BMW. The bill is high as we watch Edwards here down the back of the pack. Also in the freight. Keane there in the 17th position to make his way past Stevens.
Yeah, I think actually looking at Scotty's car there, loss of the front end, something different. We haven't seen that on a lot of the BMWs yet, so they do look pretty different as a result of that. But we'll keep an eye on how he goes. A little battle forming up as well with Simon Lada, Wayne Hewitt, Grant Matterford, all getting involved in that as we see one of the Mark 1 cars coming back on. And with this long straightaway here, that we saw it in race 1, obviously a little bit of issue with some guys rejoining, and it only opens up the passing opportunities for this pack.
Wow, how about that? Heading into the Curva Grande. Oh, huge incident. Huge incident down the back of the pack. That's a big one there at high speeds. And it's collected an immense amount of cars. Now, no safety car in this afternoon, but that could have caused that. I mean, I'm surprised we came off. That's probably the best we could have come off after such a serious incident like that.
Yeah, looks like a lot of guys managed to get through. I think Wayne Hewitt in the Angry Pepper car was unfortunate in that one. Did sustain a little bit of damage and dropped himself down a little further in the pack, but looks like everyone else able to avoid, and that's a good result for them. But we have got a fantastic little battle shaping up here. Looking at Michael Kirkham at the moment, down in 16th position overall, and all the guys around him. He's got Mitch Bales, Rob Crisdale, who we were mentioning very early on, starting right down the back of the grid tonight, and starting to find his way back up now.
I can't take you seriously when you say Angry Pepper Racing.
Look, it's a great name. I think well played to the guy.
Up there, Daniel. Look at the lead here as we discuss this. This is Misdale being overtaken by Clements. Wallace also having a look here in the Porsche.
Yeah, they've got a fantastic run around the outside through the Curva Grande. It's actually going to bring Wallace down in the inside, so we might see who's that, Daniel Misdale drop a couple of positions, but Misdale very defensive in that.
Wow, brilliant there from Misdale. Of the headlights by Wallace, but it has to be said, Misdale did nothing wrong there. He'll receive it off track though, heading through Lesmo 1 as they go extremely deep there on the exit. And I like how iRacing's clamped down on the off tracks there, Daniel. Used to be able to run a lot wider through the exit of Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Now the driver's going to have to take those corners a little bit more tighter.
Well, the Lesmos did provide a good opportunity to, as you say, gain a little bit of speed through there. We come out very wide, use that runoff curb, and set yourself up for the second portion of the corner there. So narrowing that down only tightens the racing, and do we need it tighter than what we're seeing here at the moment? But I think it's certainly working very well here. Misdale getting a great draft up on the back of Clements, and this is going to be the same as race 1 all over again. If these guys can stay in tow, we're going to see a scrap all the way to the final checkup.
Yeah, definitely. Have a look at them going for the switch back here. Wallace pulling off all the tricks in the book here on Daniel Misdale, who started from pole, reverse grid pole, for our second race this afternoon. And look at the train behind here of GT cars as they scream through chicane. They'll skip the braking zone here. Gosh, I've never seen cars scream through here so fast at Monza. Now through the Curva Grande. Just a slight lift will get Daniel just to make the corner. But apart from that, these guys will... they're in prime position here to go 3 wide in the braking zone, and they decide otherwise. Misdale back in the lead.
Yeah, Misdale got a fantastic run down there. That Ford working very, very well. You know, the big beneficiary that we haven't mentioned yet is Dominic Ferreras in the Ferrari. Finds himself now up in second place. So race 1 winner getting back in amongst it. We've still got battles going on behind Clements, Wallace, Reece Keane getting a move done as well. He jumps up into the 3rd position now. So these guys are going to be fighting on here for a long time to come. And it's great to see all these guys in all different cars getting involved.
Yeah, definitely. Ferraris now in brilliant position. I didn't expect him to be second after where he started, but after starting from 8th here, he's made the most progress. Craig Edwards, though, is down to 16th. Edwards' progress, he's been down the order. Lattimore's remained in 9th, so Craig Edwards hasn't had the best of jumps.
No, we did see Craig getting involved in that earlier issue there with a couple of the Mark 1 cars on lap 2. So that put him down a long way down the order, but he is starting to make a move back up through the field. He's got Matt Morris just ahead of him in that green VPR, MMR racing car as well. So Morris coming back up the field, although, must be said, already up 15 spots as a result from the start of this race.
So the start ever critical. Here we watch Edwards now under attack from attacking Matt Morris in that VMMR car. And Matt Morris has about 4 seconds to Scott Chambers up ahead. This is Ferraris for the lead now. Dominic Ferraris for FT1 Motorsports has descended into the braking zone. He's going to stop it though in the apex, Dominic. Oh, brilliant there from Misdale. And the Ford is back into the first position.
That was a fantastic read by Misdale there. Got on the brakes just that touch early. Got the crisscross done through the De La Roja chicane there, so that was phenomenal for him. But you see how quick that Ferrari is in a straight line, getting the run through turn 2 into the chicane. Just a little overdone there by Ferraris, but he is getting an idea of what he can do in this car. Maybe he'll see him go to that next lead next time.
A tactical off-track, for example, through the Lesmos, even though you'll lose those 5 bonus points, is actually more beneficial, because if you make the pass into P1, you gain 10 points in the championship. So it's almost worth driving off the racetrack without gaining too much of an advantage and trying to get away with it without the steward seeing, as Keane and Clements swap positions.
Well, it is something that they say in a lot of other motorsport, that racing drivers do have to be very switched on there. And you know, if you're taking into consideration the points penalty, which I know a lot of guys will not be thinking about the points at this part of the race, but for anyone who's calculating enough to do it, well, it's not a bad one.
What was the supercars track, as we see Misdale and Ferraris here alongside each other again halfway through the race? What was the supercars track at New Zealand, where through the chicanes they used to have an automatic detection point as to whether you cut the track? And I remember drivers at the end of the race used to deliberately do it because they had about 7 lives left.
Yeah, well, it was very similar to was it Adelaide as well, when he used to go through the front chicane there. The guys tried to save the lives and run them right out at the end. So if they've got the time, they're certainly able to do it, and it'll be interesting to see. And I think it was not, might have been Pico, might have been Hamilton as well.
Yeah, Hamilton.
One of the circuits not still on the calendar anymore, but if the guys are able to do it, why not? Fair play to them. But looks like Scotty Chambers getting a move done as well.
But what's happened to Clements? Clements has lost an immense amount of positions. There's been an issue, and he's still dropping like a fly right now. Oh, Clements is off the racetrack. His day is done. That car has been retired, and Dave Clements retires from this race and ends his race 10 minutes earlier than he expected.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. We'll see whether we can maybe get a replay later, or if he's able to jump up in the box afterwards, we might be able to find some info out about that. But there is a slow-moving car on the track as well. That's Hayden Veld missing the front end of his Ferrari as well. So was Veld actually involved in that one also?
Well, here's a replay now. Talk us through it. What's happened here?
Yeah, looks like we've got Hayden Veld up here. We get a little bit of a draft and concertina effect between both these guys. So yeah, that's unfortunate for Veld and Clement, both going wide into the wall there. And that was, I think it was Reece Keane in the DPR car as well involved in that for BMW.
Yeah, well, actually, Reece Keane wasn't one of the spinners because he's still in the 3rd position, but he may have been involved. You're correct. Now, is that David Miller right behind him in the Porsche? Lee Vandenberg. Just a touch. Oh, that's a huge rear lock up there. Up for Vandenberg, and he's had some issues there in the Ferrari, and that was very bizarre to see, but so easy to do, Daniel, at the 2nd chicane.
Certainly is. He was under a lot of pressure there with Chris Whitaker in the FT1 Motorsports car, trying to get down there, and as you say, just caught maybe a little bit of the grass more so than the rear brake locking, and unfortunately sent it into the wall. He has got back on track, but he's only now just ahead of Matt Morris and Craig Edwards. So did drop himself down a little bit, sitting in 12th position, but he's going to come back under fire here pretty quickly.
Edwards is not making any progress right now. What do you think's going on for Craig Edwards? Do you think it's damage that's affecting him? He looks pretty close here to Matt Morris.
If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Craig's maybe just suffering a little bit being behind the car of Morris there, so not quite able to get the draft, which is very weird considering how quick those Fords were in race.
Your lead now between Ferraris and Misdale on the main stretch. The two have been drafting each other. Take the lead here. They're awfully close, aren't they?
Yeah, Misdale not letting go at all, and if we go side by side down through the Cova Grande, great running, actually both first, second and third and fourth all getting involved in this, so we're going to see positional changes momentarily here, but the Fords are very, very strong. And Misdale, a little side-to-side contact, able to get through. Those Fords are riding the bumps exceptionally well.
5 of them here running exceptionally well for the lead. That's between Misdale, Ferraris, Lattimore, Keane, Davison. 3 different manufacturers of cars, 2 Fords, 2 BMWs and a Ferrari to throw itself in a mix. And how ironic that Ferraris runs a Ferrari.
Certainly ironic. It looks like Lattimore got a little bit of wheel spin too on the exit of the second Lesmo there, and that's dropped him down a position as we see Keane coming past. But yeah, all these guys, you throw a blanket over them.
And a bit of a tough tussle through Ascari. There's a bump that can unsettle the car there on the apex, but I think the cars had lost it beforehand. This is Lattimore in 5th. Behind Keane and Davison, the 2 BMWs alongside each other into the Parabolica. Fair share of bump and run over the years, but that's not required by Lattimore. He's going to have a nice little slingshot here on the main stretch. And the bets are on, Daniel. I will not doubt myself if I see Lattimore in the 3rd position by the 2nd chicane.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure whether he would get this one done. He obviously got a couple of cars ahead of him, as you see Ferris and Misdale still going at it. Again, another lap goes by. Misdale might probably hold on to this one again, but Ferris really getting a move on here to try for some moves. But I think if Ferris wants a chance at winning it, he's going to have to retain it here as he goes defensive down the inside. I don't know that Misdale's going to be able to get the move. And what do you know?
Raji, it didn't hurt anybody, did it? Door rubbings racing, boys, and they're still alongside each other into the Lesmo corners, but that is Misdale. Side scrap ends up ahead of Ferraris, and you'll have to produce another attack here for the 1st position. Right behind, though, I'd love to have my money back, wouldn't I, with Lattimore in the 5th position.
Yeah, look, it would have been a great bet for anyone putting a move on there. I actually think maybe we should throw this one out to the viewers tonight to see who their call for the win is. Obviously, with how close everyone is, it's going to be fantastic. And I know there's a little bit of support for Misdale already out there, so we'll see how he goes for the...
Look at the left-hand side of the screen, ladies and gentlemen. In the past 10 seconds, I think we saw at least... I could count at least about 15 to 20 position changes. It's just so hard to keep track of. 50 cars, 20-minute sprint race. This is what you get around a no-chicane version of Monza. It's so hard to keep track of. This is Edwards now in the 12th position on a recovery drive from a poor start. Intent. He had reverse opposite pole. Race one. Ferraris and Misdale there swapping positions for the lead, but I have to also note Cody Bird in 14th after being outside the top 30 at one stage in race 1, now into 14th.
Yeah, absolutely. Bird's done a fantastic job. He's up 19 spots from where he started, so really getting underway here. As you see Misdale getting it a little wrong there on the exit of De La Rogier, getting back up under speed, but that has actually released Ferris now. Some 1.4 second up the road, but Davison, Misdale and Keane are all going to start to scrap again. So this, well, they might have let one go. We've got another 6 cars here ready to start again.
Definitely. This is we watch. That advantage for the lead. You can almost count him out of the battle now. He's got a mad pack of drivers behind. Look at the orange gaps on the left-hand side of the screen from 3rd to 8th. That's the defensive driving that Misdale is going to have to face over these next 2 minutes.
But if anyone can do it, I think Misdale's certainly shown so far tonight. He's got the calibre to get through and hold those positions. You see he does drop behind Davison here. But having said that, having that 8 of a draft's only going to help him on the run up through to the chicane. So that Ford's going to be in pretty good stead as we see Keane dropping behind, and these guys basically looking like the Tour de France coming down a hill, all one after the other.
Yeah, it looks like a relay, doesn't it? Where are the drinks? To have people out there on the racetrack, but here they head through the Curva Grande one more time here. There'll be about 2 laps to go in this race. Norris has a hand on the trophy for his 2nd race win of the season. But it's up to these guys to battle for the final podium positions. 3, 4 cars in contact. Another Ford involved as well. We're watching Danny Davison up on screen, and that was inevitable.
Yeah, that was only a moment of time before those guys happened. I think Chris Whitaker might have been involved in that. We saw him down the inside in the FT1 Motorsports car as well, but a lot of shake-up as a result of that. We'll have to see whether we can get a replay after this settles down a little bit, as we got a couple of the Pulse Racing cars going around here, and one of the JPS cars as well. So a little further down with these guys, down in 21st, 22nd, but battles, as we said, all the way up and down this field.
Dale in the JP Simshed car, just ahead there of Sal Galenti. Galenti was behind his teammate, as Daniel Leap just said. In the other Pulse Racing Team car, these guys are scrapping for positions 19 to 22. Galenti's lost another spot there to Kenneth for Ferraris. He's had the white flag waved. He's begun the final lap. This race is coming to a close right now. He's got one hand on the trophy, and he's going to extend his championship lead, Daniel, which is ever critical.
Oh, look, if you're able to maintain up the front and get on with it, that's where you want to be. And as we say, he took round one, last time out at Road America, and being up the front 2 seconds up the road, it's only going to help increase his championship step.
Now on screen in a battle with David Miller for Redback Racing into 4th. God, I love iRacing. It looks so brilliant, doesn't it, as they go through the second chicane. And then you see all the gravel kicked up in the air.
Yeah, so it's iRacing certainly put a lot of detail in over the last few season builds, and obviously we had dirt early on, and they've only got better and better with the lighting, which came to sort of fruition the last time out for the Le Mans series, and now it's going on leaps and bounds, obviously with the clouds not helping so much for the sunlight, but giving us everything here, as we see Dominic Ferraris extending his lead out front, 2.2 seconds over Daniel Misdale, who's not going to be able to get it done in that Ford, and potentially on for a fantastic race and win there. Just got a little unfortunate in a couple of mistakes. And then Chris Whitaker getting himself up from just outside the top 10 at the start of this one as well.
Chris wins race 2, and he extends his championship lead. And the FT1 Motorsport team will have Chris Whitaker join him on the podium in the 3rd position. But a brilliant race from Daniel Misdale from pole position. Kept his cool, didn't he? And these are some nice battles through the back end of the order with Martin Crisp now for the Pulse Racing team in the BMW. Surrounded by a couple of Ferraris here. With a drag race to the line, it's going to be too little too late for Crisp to enter the top 20. And we're still racing here with Wayne Hewitt. Look at that angry pepper car. My goodness. It's not even a car anymore. There's no front end.
No, it's something we saw to Scotty Stevens' car as well earlier on the race, and that's part of the new damage model obviously iRacing are doing. Wayne involved in that earlier incident as one of the returning cars out of the pit lane, but completely changes the look of that BMW.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Hewitt to finally cross the line. From race 2, Daniel, lessons learned any different from race number 1?
Look, not a lot. I think the racing was as fierce as what we'd expected and seen through race 1, but for all the guys out there, maybe a couple of little mistakes that popped up here and there, and some great recovery drives. I think one of the big ones was Matt Morris getting himself up inside the top 10, and we saw him jump 23 odd spots from where he started the race. So for the guys that are able to keep it clean and consistent, great reward at the end.
Well, now that the race is over, let's take a look at your final race results and then bring you post-race interviews here live on Apex Racing TV. Scott, actually? No, we can, yes. I see so many cars still out there on the racetrack. We don't know if they've all crossed the finish line, but we can confirm they have. And we can confirm Dominic Ferraris there with a brilliant victory will continue away and extend his championship lead. He's won 2 races this season. The other win, as we know, went to Craig Edwards, who came home first in race 1, only 11th in that second race. How about Cody Bird entering the top 10 for Eclipse Sim Sports? Brilliant result from Cody Bird after was once outside the top 30 or top 40 in race 1. So that's a brilliant drive there after a poor qualifying performance. Misdale, Whitaker, and Lattimore ended up second, third, and fourth. You can see up through the top of the order. One motorsport cars on the podium, and that's what they'll be celebrating leaving Monza, heading into round 3 next week. Was 14th for Elite Racing. Scott Stevens had a lot of damage this race and still ended up with a top 15 position. Scott Chambers for the Pulse Racing team. He ended up in 13th. And have a look down the order there. JP Simshade car of Robert Crisdell and Kenneth Latter in the race on Oscar, rounding out the top 20. Well, can you see that car in the background there? Just having a nice little fun through the parabolica. Lee Vandenberg with damage ended up 31st. Lee Vandenberg really deserved a top 10 result, but we know what happened to him at the Della Roggia. And then you'll be able to spot any other names throughout the order in the rest of the field for our 50-car grid. So, Beak to who was race 2 winner this afternoon, and that's 2 races on the trot here. Podium for Ferraris, and that's a brilliant start to the season for you, mate. And you had to do it with reverse grid as well in race 2.
Yeah, it was an interesting start to the night. First race was quite weird. Got held up with the car, and I sort of just conceded that I'd stay there and get myself a pretty good spot for the second one. And boy, that second race was lots of fun. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Is it ironic that Mr. Ferraris runs a Ferrari and does so well in it for the series?
Well, I can only seem to drive the Ferrari. Every other GTE, I'm too slow. So I think it is a blessing in disguise.
Conspiracy theories lie. Well, next round into Catalunya. Have you tried out Catalunya and iRacing? I think they've done a brilliant job with it.
Yeah, I've done a few test laps. It's really good. Love the surface. Love the track. It feels really nice. So I'm really looking forward to that and the GTEs.
Awesome. And who gets it done for you here today for the FT1 Motorsport team?
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to thank all my FT1 teammates, Demon Tweaks, Sim Racing Collectibles, Hybrid Racing Simulation, and all our other great partners. Thanks, guys, for the broadcast. Bet it was lots of fun.
Awesome. So that was Dominic Ferraris, who took home race victory this afternoon for race number 2. Thanks again, Dominic. Hopefully see you next round at Barcelona.
Cheers, guys.
Daniel, we will bring in... Daniel Misdale. He stood alongside Daniel Leet. Now, Daniel Misdale, the two Daniels stood alongside each other. Daniel Misdale had reverse pole, Mr. Leet, but claimed a good strong haul of a second position there.
Yeah, g'day, Daniel. Had a fantastic run at it tonight, mate. You had a lot of pace in that Ford and got yourself into some fantastic little battles there with Dominic towards the back end of that race. How did you find it?
Yeah, cheers, guys. Yeah, that was fantastic, mate. Kept it clean in the first race, knowing that if I could finish somewhere in the 10 with the reverse grid, I'd have a pretty good start and get in the drafting pack. And I've got to say, thanks to Dominic, that was some good, clean racing, mate, there for 8 laps. Side by side, good respect for racing. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. It was great.
Yeah, well, it was something we all saw. The racing between both yourself and Dominic was pretty well on point. The Ford looked to have a really good top-end straight line speed. Was that something you were able to sort of get from the guys in the first race? With their benefit, they were obviously able to walk away from the pack a little bit. Was that something you were hoping and relying on towards the back end there?
Yeah, 100%. It's such a drafting circuit. So I knew I found myself in a no man's land in race 1. And thought if I can just get to the back of the pack, get into the 10, if I can get a good start to the second race, which I did with the top end speed of the Ford, I knew I could hopefully break away with someone and we could have a good race, which was what happened. And yeah, it was great.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic run, mate. And obviously off to Catalonia next week. A favourite for you, or how have you gone with some laps?
Yeah, I'd love the circuit, mate, actually. Been doing some laps there, so it's one of those circuits I really like. It's a real driver circuit. So, yeah, it'll be tricky, but I think stay clean, and we can have some racing like we did tonight. It'll be great.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Daniel Misdale, on second place tonight. Is there anyone you wanted to give a shout out and a thanks to before we let
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'd just like to thank Southwell Lifts and Hoists, Beng Mats Mechanical, and BetSmart Race Solutions. They've helped us get this little team of ours, DPR Racing, up the front over the last sort of 12 months, and I'm really proud of the guys. We work together well, so thank you very much to everyone involved.
No worries. Well, thanks a lot, and congratulations again on second place tonight.
No worries. Thank you, and thank you to a good broadcast, mate. You do a good job.
And that was Daniel Misdale with reverse pole. Had a brilliant second race here this afternoon. We will finally speak to Chris Whitaker, who came home in the third position. And Chris, it looked like quite a lot of fun out there for you, mate. It was some brilliant drafting at Monza. I think the removal of the first chicane made it quite more entertaining for you guys.
Yeah, no, it was a good race. It was on like Donkey Kong pretty well the whole way through there, but yeah, definitely a draft fest. The first sprint race I struggled with a bit of damage right at the start, but I didn't really have the outright pace of the boys tonight. But yeah, the toe definitely helped me out. So no, it was good fun.
We discussed how it's a little demoralizing missing out on reverse pole by one position, but you really came out with a force there to finish on the podium.
Oh, don't worry, I commented on that. You probably can't put that over the broadcast what I said about it, but yeah, I definitely commented on it. But, yeah, I guess it probably gave us a little bit of fire in the belly, but yeah, it was another one of those things after that first race with the damage, and it was still doing reasonable times, just no top end speed. So once you throw a new set of boots on it and get rid of the damage, and I think we're about nearly 20 degrees cooler in that second race, so the thing actually hooked up and yeah, started to gel with the car a little bit better. I only decided to race 5 minutes before practice. That's pretty well the first driving I've done with the setup, so I was struggling at that stage, but no, I'm pretty happy. I jumped out and went for a dart tonight.
Awesome. We can play it, but I don't think Scott Newton has a bleep button. So thanks for thanks for the notice ahead of that, which is good to know. Finally, who gets it done for you for the team and everybody else?
Yeah, well, first things first, I'll say congratulations to Dom for the win there. That was a bloody good drive from him. To Dan as well. The two of them just, they're in the class of their own, really, in that race then. So did bloody well there. But obviously to the guys who run the series, to AMF, thank you very much. They do a great job week in, week out. I don't know how many series I've run with those guys now, but, they just get the job done. It's good fair racing every single time. To you guys, broadcast crew, to all the other guys who are running with us, it's just, without the numbers, I don't know how many we had in total tonight. Over 100, I believe, between the two splits. It's just ridiculous, a good ridiculous. To our sponsors, all the boys at FT1 to start with. To our sponsors, Demon Tweaks, SimSpeed, HRS, SRC, RMS, and Fight CRC. Thank you very much for the support. And yeah, that pretty well covers it off, I think.
Exactly. So that was Chris Whitaker, who came home in the third position. And thanks again, mate. We'll hopefully see you next week at Barcelona on the podium once again. Now, Daniel, we look at the final points. Race to conclusion. And yes, Ferraris has extended his lead over Reese Keane. Reese Keane in the second position's had a brilliant result.
Well, yeah, this race has sort of shaken up the points ladder a little bit more, as you say. Farris continuing on 2 from 2. Well, yeah, two from 3 almost, basically, and extending his lead now to 1483. Reese Keane doing a great job to jump up the order, finds himself in second. Not too far behind, 120 points, but that'll easily be recovered throughout the course of the season. Craig Edwards drops down into third. Justin Wallace, Dave Miller round out the top 5. Matt Morris actually dropped out a little bit. I think he started in 5th and finds himself down in 6th. So all in all, not too bad. And the points here for the series so far, only 3 races in, and 2 rounds. It's pretty tied up towards the top.
It's time to wrap up here today. Now, we hope you enjoyed our broadcast. First of all, apologies, of course, yet again for the technical issues we had in race 1, but we brought you all the action in race 2, and boy, was it fun here. And even for the last part of race 1, I should say. But these thrilling GTE cars will be back racing again in a week's time on the 29th of September. That will be for a 45-minute race around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, brand new to iRacing. Now, we know there's going to be a mandatory pit stop required for that race. That will shake up the action by just quite a touch. It will all be broadcasted on Apex Racing TV. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Daniel Lead alongside me, Scott Newton behind the scenes in production. Hope you enjoyed today's broadcast, because this was an Apex Racing TV presentation. Our winner today, Dominic Ferraris, who extends his championship lead. We say so long from Monza.